Hello, Sherry.
Hello.
Water. So we're the only two in so far.
Yes, sir.
Okay. They had a surprise birthday party for Mustafa virtually. They didn't tell me till we were leaving the church, so I was on that. I had to jump the line and tell them, "Hey, let me get my well wishes in now because I got to come off."
That's okay.
Yeah. I hope these Negroes come on, right?
It's okay. We're going to continue with the program.
Yes, we are. I get like this all the time. Ayana used to laugh at me as a little girl because we'd be having revival. I keep going to the window. I keep opening the door, looking out to see if cars are coming, then peeking, see how many cars were parked. She like, just calm down, they're coming.
Oh, boy. Do you know what figure's topic is going to be? What is title?
I have no idea.
Okay.
We're winging this one.
So does this one have a
He actually
MC?
gave us a scripture, but I can't remember it.
That's okay.
He gave us a scripture. Only one I remember, Reverend Wiggins, the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't remember Frank.
Just a second.
Mm-hmm. What a day. I should say, what an evening.
Frank is coming in. I'm going to go ahead and start the music, okay?
Okay.
Hey, Miss Sherry.
Hey there, Frank.
Hey, Pastor, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm sorry I missed Friday.
Okay. Well,
And
you
I'm
got
having, huh?
I said you got it now. Everything all right?
I'm having trouble now. I'm having to do it on my phone, iPad. Sir,
Okay.
my iPad won't do.
All right. Well, I'm on my phone too. They all work. Sherry is getting ready to start some music. So as people come in, they can listen to the music.
Okay.
Okay. Sherry?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You ready?
I just want to make sure he didn't have any questions he wanted to ask before the music start, because you might be able to hear him.
Okay. Frank, she wants to know if you have any questions or guidance for us.
No, sir. I'm certainly not going to put nothing on you at this last minute. Friday was the time to do it, and I missed it. So I'm going to try to do the best I can. I really want to be on this device, though.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what, let me go out and come back in.
Okay.
All right. What are you playing, Sherry?
Hezekiah Walker, Great is Our God.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Sherry.
Hey, Loretta.
I'm still listening with Scoffer. He's thanking everybody, Reverend Woodbury and everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
More, please.
Give me a minute, yo.
Share sound.
Of people believe culture is important to an organization's success.
Thou will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. It's a peace that passes all of your understanding, and this peace will guard your hearts and minds through the love of Jesus Christ. He's the keeper of my soul. He's able to keep what I commit unto him. Great is our awesome in all your ways. He giveth grace and strength. All that's good and true. Who makes
They cut it off. Seven people on. Uh-huh. They're in the waiting room anyway. I don't know how many people in the public.
From a biblical or spiritual perspective, my name is Reverend Leo Whitberry. I would like to introduce tonight's presenter, Brother Frank Figures, who is a deacon at one of our Baptist churches in Jackson, Mississippi. And he's going to bless us with some spiritual insight that we can use both for Bible study and for Sunday school. When we look around our country, we see that African Americans and other people of color are more impacted by climate change and environmental problems than anyone else, low income people and people of color. And it's very important that the church, the Black church, which is our largest institution with the greatest resources, do what Jesus asked us to do, which is to care for the least among us. And so at this time, with no further ado, I'd like to present to you Deacon Frank Figures, who will break the word of life with us in his very own way. Brother Frank, great to have you.
Thank you, Pastor Woodbury. And thank all of you who've taken time out of your schedule to tune in. As Pastor Woodbury has said, I bring you greetings from Jackson, Mississippi, and the Shady Grove Missionary Baptist Church. I also work for One Voice, a local statewide nonprofit that's located in Jackson, Mississippi. And I must say that I was inspired this morning when a friend of mine sent me a text message. It was part of a chain of texts that I guess he takes upon himself to send out to a number of people. And I, for one, this morning was glad that I received a text message from him. The friend of mine, Dr. Hilliard Lackey, who is a Jackson State University social science professor. Jackson State University is one of the historically Black schools underfunded that are located in the capital city of Jackson, Mississippi. Dr. Lackey is probably the longest serving professor on the Jackson State University faculty at this time. And he's served somewhere around 50 years. His love for young people and assisting young people discover new and exciting information has kept him young at heart and with a sound mind. If you see Dr. Lackey any day, you wouldn't think that he was beyond 80 years old. But because he eats good, he's conscious of his health, he has a firm exercise regimen, and he keeps involved with young people. The text message that Dr. Lackey sent out this morning was a quote from Arthur Ashe. And he opened the text message by saying, in who the text message was directed to, my beloved fellow change agents. My beloved fellow change agents. He recognized us as whoever he sent this message to as working for change within the culture and the society that we are now living in. And he goes on to say, the late Arthur Ashe, a Black tennis star was known for wait for better times, places, or circumstances to serve God through serving humanity. Arthur Ashe would say, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. Now, since my retirement from the private sector and going into public service, and through the work that I do at One Voice, at the nonprofit, one of the things that I do with One Voice, in addition to civic engagement and education, is legacy preservation. Now, legacy preservation, I was in court a few years ago, and the judge asked me, well, I understand what civic engagement is, and I understand what education is, because that's why you were here. I was there in court that day in federal court, because in Mississippi has 120 school districts, and over 40 of them are still under consent decree, complying with the 1954 ruling from the United States Supreme Court. So in Mississippi, in many ways, we are behind. So I was there because of the Franklin County School District wanted to come from under the consent decree. And as you all know, a consent decree is a promise that you make to fulfill certain responsibilities under court supervision. Mississippi, even today, in some school districts, have not yet fulfilled those promises. Now, legacy preservation, I explained to the judge, simply put, is specifically around civil rights tours. So for the past 15 years or so, I've been doing civil rights tours in Jackson and around the state of Mississippi. And in these tours, I attempt to go beyond individual personalities, but rather present the civil rights movement as a high moment in a greater human struggle for justice, equity, and inclusion. I make an attempt in these tours to present this struggle as sustaining moments and high moments. As in any endeavor, there are long periods of sustaining moments just to get to the high moment. I attempt to make this concept, sustaining moments, resonate with people while letting them know that it was more than the high profile personalities that made the movement. It was ordinary people, everyday people who make the movement. People make movements. Movements produce change, and they are made up by ordinary people, not just the personalities that you hear about most of the time. To get this over, probably sometime in 2016, I began using this soundbite. Movement was possible by ordinary people, everyday people, doing what they could with what they have, where they are, in order to bring about a better life and a fair deal for themselves and their posterity. I was saying that, and I guess I said it so much with a group of middle school children until at the end of the 90-minute tour, they were saying it also, mimicking and marking me. You know how young people do. They were saying, do what they could with what they had, wherever they are, in order to bring about a better life and a fair deal for themselves and their posterity, So when I received that text message from Dr. Lackey this morning, quoting Arthur Ashe, I felt encouraged. The thing I want to suggest to you today is, in this ecological justice movement, which includes environmental justice, climate change, and all of the cumulative impact associated therewith, if we, ordinary people, everyday people, just do what we can with what we have, where we are, we can bring about a better life and a fair deal for us and our posterity. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. You will bring about a better life and a fair deal for yourself and our posterity. Earth Day has come to mean people taking action to save the earth from those who pollute, pillage, and exploit the earth. Taking actions like demand that politicians listen and exact public policy that prevents this pillaging, this polluting, and this exploiting of the earth. Demand that pollutants stop polluting the planet at once. And some of us will attempt to cut what's been messed up by these exploiters and polluters. Whatever your role, whatever is done, you can surely know that the outcome will be determined by ordinary people, everyday people, just doing what they can with what they have, where they are, in order to bring about a better life here on earth and a fair deal for the humanity that we are called to serve. On those tours, I try to get over to people. I try to get people to understand that a high moment, like the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965, was indeed a high moment. But that high moment was sustained by work that began long before 1965 by people who you never even heard of. Let me just give you an example here. Stephania Clark launched an educational initiative in the low country of South Carolina that came to be known as citizenship schools. Ms. Clark was a school teacher specializing in adult education. Ms. Clark unveiled an initiative in the, Ms. Clark, I'm having some technical difficulties. Pastor knows that I didn't show up for the pre-run, so I guess that's why these technical difficulties are coming upon me today. But Ms. Clark launched an educational initiative in the low country of South Carolina that came to be known as citizenship schools. Ms. Clark I'm unmuted. Some more technical difficulties. That's why Pastor Woodbury urged me to get on this dry run this past Friday, but I'm sorry I didn't, and I'm paying for it at this moment. Miss Clark was a school teacher specializing in adult education. Ms. Clark unveiled an initiative in the fall of 1958 at the Highlander Folk Center in Tennessee. And Miss Ella Baker traveled as a result of her unveiling this educational initiative. Miss Ella Baker, traveled to South Carolina to witness this program in action firsthand and was impressed. Miss Baker urged the concept to be implemented by the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. By 1962, young people in Mississippi with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, nurtured by Miss Ella Baker, and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and the Congress of Racial Equality and the Mississippi State Conference of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, along with 70 plus local indigenous Mississippi organizations, founded the Council of Federated Organizations, COFO, and began teaching literacy to people all over Mississippi, with the expected outcome of being able to pass the state of Mississippi's subjective literacy test. By 1963, November, this led to over 80,000 people in Mississippi participating in a mock election on November the 1st, 1963, designated as Freedom Day. This Freedom Day led to the formation of a Freedom Party. And in the summer of 1964, a Freedom Summer, where all of the activities were directed toward urging and encouraging and teaching literacy to people, with the expected outcome of more and more people attempting to register to vote. This led to the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. These are a short version of some of the sustaining moments that led to the high moment of people doing what they could with what they had, where they were, in order to make a better life and a fair deal for themselves and their posterity. So today, we do what we can with what we have. And the question becomes, what do we have? What can we do? That's our today's question. Well, in our churches, as the Pastor Woodbury has stated, we have a very vast resource. We are rich in resources. All we have to do is just look at what we have. So we have in our churches, most churches have every Sunday a Sunday school. Most churches have every week a Bible class, a Bible study. And at least once a year, most churches have what they call a vacation Bible school. Now, in a Sunday school is an already existing platform. There are lessons that are prepared for church people that cover a 3-year period. And the purpose of that 3-year period is to guide people's study and focus through the whole Bible in 3 years. And in 3 years, you can know quarterly, and you can even know yearly, or even the 3-year period what each Sunday's lesson is going to be. For instance, I already know if you subscribe to the International Sunday School lessons, that next Sunday, your lesson is going to be coming from the 5th chapter of the book of Lamentations. And I call your attention to the 5th chapter and the 4th verse in the book of Lamentations. And that verse reads in the regular King James, it says, "We have drunken our water for money. Our wood is sold to us." And in the new Living Testament translation, that same 4th verse of the 5th chapter of Lamentation reads, "We have to pay for water to drink, and even firewood is too expensive." So in that Lamentation chapter is the word water. Now, in the Vacation Bible School lessons that young people are going to be involved in during the summer, all that choose to do so, the theme is water. And this year, they're focusing on a cruise. And young people are vicariously, literally, are going to board a cruise ship and take off to various ports of call, exciting places that you hear and read about, like Jamaica and places like that. But that's important, because if you turn and look at the book of Genesis, in the 1st chapter, in the first 2 verses, you're going to find this. "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." That's verse 1. The 2nd verse is, "The earth was barren with no form of life. It was under a roaring ocean covered with darkness." So in the very 2nd verse of the 1st chapter of the book of Genesis, the book of beginnings, there was water. That suggests to me, my friends, that water is a basic human right. Water is an element. The people in this coming Sunday's lesson in Lamentations are complaining, they are lamenting because they are being charged too much. Perhaps today, some of us can lament because we are totally without water. We here in Jackson, Mississippi, in my neighborhood, we were out of water for 19 days. And then we had to make another 5 days before the water that was coming through was deemed safe for people to drink. So for 24 days, we were without water. Now that's a terrible lament, but yet it happened. It just happened in the month of February and early in March this year, in a thriving metropolis like Jackson, Mississippi, with 160,000 plus people. And some people even went longer without water. So water is fundamental to human development and human need. You'll also find that water is mentioned in the Bible, regardless of what translation you use, more than the word love. Water is mentioned more than love. So water is mentioned ceremoniously, it's mentioned through rivers and streams, it's mentioned through miraculous occurrences, and it's also mentioned as a stable for life. So water is a human right. We have a platform, and our platform is our Sunday school and our Bible class and our Vacation Bible School. And the theme, as I said, in the Vacation Bible School is water for this year. Last year, the theme was water also. In the series that our church will use this year, even though we're going to do a virtual Vacation Bible School, the theme is for middle school is get on board this cruise ship. And this cruise ship is going to sail through various ports of call. And each port of call has a theme to uplift, the light of love, the light of forgiveness, the light of peace, the light of truth, the light of Christ. So, but the thing about it is the foundation is water. This ship, this love ship is going to travel on water and take people through all of these exciting places. Now, the Vacation Bible School material, along with the Sunday school material that our church uses, is the published by the Sunday School Publishing Board, and it's located in Nashville, Tennessee, 330 Charlotte Avenue in Nashville, Tennessee. And so that's what we get. But with just environmental justice, how necessary is something as basic that we often take for granted as water? Now, using already existing platforms, we can accomplish at least two things. We can accomplish one thing, one objective is we can increase our environmental justice consciousness, the environmental justice consciousness of our people, and we can also compensate for some of the learning loss that the pandemic and virtual education has caused our children. There are many people that I know, that I still know, who actually learn how to read in Sunday school. Stephania Clark, as I talked about earlier, in South Carolina, she didn't have books in the 1950s and 60s. She taught people using the Bible, how to read. They were able to function in their daily lives, but they were also able to have the courage to take the literacy test that South Carolina required in order to gain the right to vote. That's why she called it citizenship schools. The more literate you are, the better citizen you can become. And my friends, it's our responsibility to bring about this, this consciousness in the environmental justice movement to our people, so that we can know the things that's holding us back as a people. We're getting poisoned by the water we drink because they've used inferior products in the water delivery system. Because of the antiquatedness of the water delivery system, we are prevented from getting water in critical, in crucial times. We need to understand that people, when they sit in positions of power, that in position of prestige, that it's not just the personality, but it's also the policy that you enact. And when people take to the streets during this Earth Day, this the 51st year of the Earth Day celebration, and make these demands that the polluters stop polluting, and these demands that the exploiters stop exploiting the land and leaving us with foul air to breathe, and leaving us with polluted water to drink, and using the most economical material that's giving us lead hazards and asbestos hazards and taking down trees. Early in the Genesis, in that same chapter, when trees began to form, do you not know that a tree can give you 19 things? It takes 30 years for a tree to come of age. But when a tree gets grown, if you will, when a tree comes of age, every day, 100 pounds of carbon and toxins out of the air. And in return for taking the carbon, the excess carbon and toxins out of the air, trees gives us oxygen, gives the air oxygen to breathe. And we need oxygen. So in Genesis chapter 1, in the creation, we know, we can find out how beneficial a tree is. And when we overcut trees in order to make what they call development, in order for exploiters and polluters to make money, then we hurt ourselves and hurt humanity. So people are going to be making demands during Earth Week. They're going to be making demands for people to stop. They're also going to be making demands for politicians to enact the kind of policy that will assure and ensure that people have a better life and a fair deal. That those are the kind of demands that we'll be undertaking during this Earth Week. And it won't be just the big people. It won't just be the movie star. It won't just be the high profile politicians. It'll be ordinary people doing what they can with what they have, where they are. In the queue, are there any questions? I know we've had some technical difficulties, but was it any part that wasn't heard? Let's see. I'm gonna open up the chat and look at it myself. Oh, okay.
While Sherry and you are looking for questions, I want to thank you for that the sharing about the power of everyday people. You know, we know 12 of thousands of disciples that Jesus had. We know about Medgar Evers and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but we don't know about all the people that marched with them and went to the ballot box risking their lives in order to vote. And, you know, Lamentations, lots of people cry over their water bill. What happened in Texas, what happened in Jackson, Mississippi. And that is thank you for that verse. I'm gonna use that verse because when we look at it, most of the planet is made of water. So why is it that, there's no free water? Either the city owns it or the municipal water company owns it. We have Pepsi and large corporations that have bought up water rights for lakes and ponds and streams, and people cry all the time over their water bill. And I see what the Bible is saying. Why would we have to pay for the very things that are necessary to life? We have a right to life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness, but you can't be happy when you're overpaying for water, and you can't have life when you're denied water. So thank you for that, Frank. And I'm going to ask Sherry if she sees any questions, or if anyone has any questions, to put them in the chat, and we'll say your name and share your questions and comments with Brother Frank. Thank you again, Brother Frank.
Yes, sir. And again, I apologize for not being on the dry run. I see now painfully what a difference it made.
That's all right. Sherry, any questions, comments?
No questions or comments so far.
Okay. So what we can do is just open it up, and if anybody wants to make a remark or discussion, or that we can, I guess we might be able to open the mic if there's someone who wants to raise their hand. And while we're waiting on folks to do that, I want to say something to some of you know about the solar powered hydro panels that we have. That's not just for show. Part of the reason, you can talk about this, Brother Frank, part of the reason we're having these boil notices and all these problems and houses built, before the 1960s that have lead pipes under them that can cause health problems as they get older and the rust builds up in there. Part of our problem is that we're using antiquated systems. The same system that the Romans used back in the days of Jesus with the reservoirs and the aqueducts is the same system in the 21st century that we're using to bring water to people today. So, Frank, would you share with us a little bit about Jackson, Mississippi is the state capital. It's over 90% African American. And I know the infrastructure that y'all have is the water system that y'all have is far from adequate, right?
Yes, sir. In fact, Jackson, Mississippi, before 1980, there were 2 Jacksons. And there are some vestiges of the 2 Jacksons that's still here today. Jackson was separate and unequal. White Jackson had one part of Jackson that was distinguishable from the historically Black Jackson. Now, the infrastructure that went in to make Jackson, to keep Jackson and to maintain Jackson as 2 separate cities, but one, the better areas that's closer to the water delivery factory, the water delivery plant, is the White Jackson. And that's still evident today. North and East Jackson is like still today like being in another Jackson. But then the other part of Jackson, South and West Jackson, is historically Black Jackson. I mentioned Dr. Lackey from Jackson State University. During the water crisis in February and March, Jackson State University with 8,000 students, 5,000 of whom board on the campus in multi-story dormitories, 5 and 6 and 7-story dormitories, didn't have water to flush with and didn't have water coming through their faucets. So that's the historically Black Jackson. And we are suffering from the huge disinvestment that has been placed in Jackson since the 1970s and the 80s. In the 1970s and the 80s, bedroom communities began to develop on the outside of Jackson. And now they are thriving areas of Jackson. And Jackson, but when they began to develop, Jackson was 60% white and 40% Black. Now, as you said, Jackson is over 90% Black. So they took with them the industry, the businesses, the tax base, and the tax revenue, and left a people who already were overworked, underpaid, undereducated to have Jackson. And so since 1980, we've been struggling with a disinvestment of the whole infrastructure of Jackson. And the main one is water. I talked about a consent decree. Jackson's wastewater, the water comes in and then the wastewater goes out. The wastewater system is under consent decree now. And it's going to cost somewhere to fix this. It's going to cost somewhere around $2 billion. Now, where are people that's always been the lowest paid, the last hired, and the first fired gonna get $2 billion from? The governor and the legislature appropriated $3 million. Now, we all know that a billion is 1,000 million. You have to have 1,000 million to get a billion, but we need $3,000 million in order just to fix the wastewater and the other infrastructure associated with that. So for us in Jackson, it's going to be a long uphill journey. But look, we can do this. The people of Jackson have committed to tax themselves. We tax ourselves with bond issues to help our schools, which are crumbling, the buildings and the infrastructure are crumbling. We tax our road. And you know what the governor did, Pastor Woodbury? The governor, for us to be able to tax ourselves, add 1 cent on every dollar of sales tax, the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the speaker of the House and the Chamber of Commerce had to appoint a special committee to determine how this money, where this money, and to what extent this tax that we pay are going to be used. That's how vindictive a system we have here in Mississippi. But it's not just Mississippi, it's across the country. Look, it's across the earth. You talked about various industry owning water and leveraging that to people selling bottled water. But I know you know that the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund are asking developing countries to put up their water rights to get aid from aid agencies. They have to leverage their water rights so companies can come in and charge people, dig wells and charge people for the water that they get. But in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, water was here before God said, let there be light. It was already water. That implies, strongly implies, that water is a God-given right that all people should have wherever they are.
Amen. Thank you. And as you said, it's everywhere. I mean, we have northern part of Florence and some other parts of Florence. It doesn't even have to rain a whole lot or be a hurricane. No streets will flood. And it's basically because the water mains, like in Jackson, are old. A lot of them are broken or they're blocked. And you know, they are just not that interested in making sure that we have clean water, that our children and adults aren't wading through sewage, you know, because when you get water flooding, a lot of that comes from sewage systems. And, you know, for everybody out there, a lot of times when it floods, children like to play in water, adults will walk through it. Do not do that barefoot without socks, because you can get a cut. You can get some serious diseases like flesh-eating diseases, which actually exist in water, and there have been reported cases in South Carolina and other parts of this country. So when we look at what's going on, instead of water being a God-given right, it is turned into a tool for profiteers who want to, you know, they're actually profiting off of what? Why do we buy bottled water? Because we don't trust the water coming from our faucet, right? Sherry, you have a question or a comment from anyone?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Rashad got his hand up.
Okay. Rashad?
No, the chat was disabled at first, and I was just gonna verbalize my statement to Brother Figures. And thank you so much for you know, your continued work and your efforts down there in the Mississippi area. We really do appreciate everything that you're doing, and that was very, very deep and insightful, a different perspective that we heard from you this evening. So I really do appreciate everything that you said. That's the only thing that I was gonna say.
God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, can we do a time check? All right, so we have about 8 more minutes. It's 7:52. So anyone else have any closing remarks? You can share those. We invite you to come back tomorrow. We have 5
I have
days.
one question in the chat.
Question, great.
One question in the chat. This
Wonderful.
question is from Wanda Joe. How can private citizens empower themselves to champion water issues that we face?
Brother Frank?
One way that private citizens can do this is by learning and exploring what you can get. For instance, in today's paper, for everybody that subscribes to the USA Today, there is about a 8-page article that goes through Earth Day and talks about its 51-year existence. And it also gives instruction about some of the things that to look for, some of the things to look out for. Now, once you get that, you can cite this as a credible source. Once you get that, then it becomes incumbent upon you to share it with others. You can share it with other people through whatever platform you have available. You may not want to stand up on a stump and make a speech, but you can just share it in casual conversation, how important the earth is and how necessary it is for people to respect the earth. Also, in the National Geographic that just came out a few weeks ago, It's the fight for clean air. And in there is a lot of information that you wouldn't normally get. And it's historic, and the National Geographic is a credible source. Also, a few years ago, Time magazine put out a whole feature in 2018, I believe, 2019, in September 2019, how the Earth survived. And it lays out a blueprint from creation all the way to 2050 about what things can be done. So now, if you take them by yourself, it may be
Overbearing.
Historic district communities of Shalom this month, the month of April, are going to form a reading group. And they're hoping to have 20 people in the reading group, and they're going to be reading selected topics and just having a general discussion with the purpose of creating a constituent body that's a little bit more aware, a little bit more conscious. So that's one of the things that I found of great help.
Mhm.
Of course, I met Pastor Woodbury at Union Theological Seminary some few years ago at a climate change conference and workshop. And he was a presenter. And that was the first time that I really got a chance to dive deep into this whole matter of environmental justice and climate change. And I've thanked him on many occasions, and I thank him again today for that. So it's just ordinary people doing what they can with what they have, wherever they are, in order to bring about a better life and a fair deal for people and their posterity.
Yeah. Sherry, any more questions or comments? Thank you.
Response from
I would
Wanda,
like
she says
to-
great information. And one response from Reverend Ms. Sophia, he says, thank you and very informative. Hi, Ms. Pastor Wiggins, sorry.
God bless. I just wanted you to know that I'm at the church and some of my members are here, and we're enjoying the message that was given today. Thank you so much for that information. That Leviticus chapter, I'm telling you, 5 and 4 is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pastor.
Enjoy.
Thank you all. And that I'll say this in closing. We're going to be doing this for 5 days. We have some other speakers coming up. Invite your friends. Let us remember the power that the Black church has. It has power when we stand up. We change things, not only where we live, we change things in this country and in the world. Folks don't realize that voting was never in the US Constitution. When this country began, only 6% of the population could vote, white men who own property. When the 15th Amendment, which gave voting rights to African Americans, passed, that opened the doors for the Latin community, for the Asian community, for many other groups, got voting rights, got other rights because the Black church stood up. And when I say Black church, I don't mean just the clergy, but everyday people stood up and made a difference. And so let us remember that the change begins with us. Before we can change the world, we must first change ourselves. So thank you, Brother Frank. If we don't have any other questions or comments, We want to invite everybody back tomorrow when Bishop Thomas Jenkins, pastor of New Dimension International Ministries and Church, will be coming to us to talk about the homeless issue. And it's very important that we look at that, because with the pandemic and people not being able to pay their rent, pay their mortgages, we might, there's a good possibility, it's already happening, that we will see the homeless population increase. And we're called by our God to care for the least among us. And so we want to invite you to join us at 7:00 tomorrow night for Bishop Jenkins. Tuesday night, it will be myself, Pastor Kingdom Living Temple. Will be talking about what the Bible says in terms of the environment and opportunities for economic opportunities for jobs, etc. The Black Church created a lot: colleges, insurance companies, funeral homes, a lot. So, and then after that, we'll have Minister Malik Safir, who will give us some information about the church and its role in social justice and the history of the church. And then Friday, Thursday, we'll spend a little more time when our coordinator and facilitator will be Reverend Esther Wiggins, the pastor of First Faith Baptist Church in New York City. So hang in there with us, spread the word, because we need our church to not only adhere to the word of God, but we need to be moved and activated by a spirit that is not one of defeat, that is not one that says we can't do anything but die and wait for our reward, but instead to remember that the kingdom of God is now, and we're doing kingdom building in his name today. So are there any other, if there are no closing remarks or comments?
No, sir.
Okay, then we can close out with are we closing out with a song, or everybody
Yes,
just
sir.
okay, we'll have a song come
I
on in.
just want to correct what I said. I said Leviticus, but I had meant Lamentations. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's
God bless.
so we're gonna have a closing
My
song.
phone.
People can talk to each other in the chat, wave goodbye, until we meet again if the Lord tarries. Sherry, take it away. That's a large for me and a large for you.
No, no,
Or a chicken wing.
no, not Bible, something like that.
Well, folks, I'm gonna leave. So long, stay strong. You're welcome.
Good night, everybody. God bless.